A boy who was bullied for having the same last name as President Trump has been invited to the President's State of the Union speech. Joshua Trump, an 11-year-old not related to the president, said he was bullied so severely he had to be homeschooled for a year. To be clear, bullying is an awful issue and no child should have to go through it. But the irony of having the biggest bully in America invite a kid who has been bullied is too good to pass up. Of course, President Trump invited Joshua because they share a last name, and the president loves to make things about himself. Also, can we pour one out for Barron Trump, please? Joshua Trump is getting more attention from the president than the president's own son. It goes to show that people are more than their last names. So hang in there, Gene Hitler. Your redemption is coming.
I'm Kristen Bates here with WEBN News at the 77th annual Christmas tree lighting ceremony here at the Boston Common.
Terrence Blanchard is an accomplished jazz musician, but while he was composing for the film BlacKkKlansman, he found inspiration from a famous rock guitarist. So we have our delicious pie. Looks great. If you have some vanilla ice cream, it'll also taste good. Put a little dollop on top of it. Get yourself a cup of coffee or whatever beverage that you want to drink with pie, and dig in. Let's see how this tastes. Okay, this is not bad. I was worried, I really was, but this is actually really good.
I'm Kristen Bates reporting for WEBN News here in Hollywood for the 91st Academy Awards. I spoke with one of the screenwriters for the film Can You Ever Forgive Me, Jeffrey Whitty, on his experience with finally meeting Lee Israel.
Patty notes that slavery in the area of Scituate in today's Norwell dates back to 1638. Perhaps due to the prevalence of abolitionist efforts in the North, it is often perceived that racism in the North was less widespread and not as brutal as it was in the South. But Patty notes that unmarried black and white couples who had children were whipped and their children were sold to ensure that the town did not have to later support them.
Welcome to my bee yard. These are my 3 hives. You want to think of each hive as its own organism, so these are just like 3 different animals instead of quite a few small bees. In each hive, there are designated jobs, and the hive couldn't work without someone doing each of those jobs. So this really counts as just 3 separate animals.
Sort of overwhelming to learn about everything, and I started learning little bit by little bit, and eventually I came across something that I thought I could follow as a way of thinking. And once I understood that everything kind of behaves like an ecosystem, I started to connect everything, and it could be done from small scale to large scale. And of course, like, I started with the containers and then eventually became a raised bed. And
that's good. So it just kind of looks like that, just sauce in the bottom. And then we're gonna take the pre-made rigatoni, and what I did was, what I typically do is I wash the pasta off right away with cold water, because it takes the starch off and then it doesn't stick together like glue. So it's going to come undone because I left it a little bit in the pasta water. But
another tip I learned is some people will say they'll put olive oil in when they cook their pasta, but then your sauce won't stick to it.
Yeah, you can't.
So don't do that.
Never put the olive oil, never. No.
It's been a little difficult. I don't actually think I came to grapple with my identity until I went to Brandeis University, which is in Waltham. It's a small college, and it is predominantly white, but nonetheless there's a lot more diversity there than there is at Norwell. And suddenly I realized that I don't really belong with all of the white kids because of what I look like.
I won't use the B word, but people would think, oh, she's that kind of woman, you know what I mean? And she's not at all. There's nothing about her that was like that. She's just really tough. She has very high standards, and she has a huge, huge heart that's covered in porcupine quills.